Looking to draft a surprising breakout wide receiver, maybe a guy like Makai Lemon, the rookie. Jayden Reed, hopefully getting some more playing time. Josh Downs. How about Alec Pierce, Courtland Sutton, Quentin Johnston, Chris Godwin, Jacoby Myers, Wan'Dale Robinson? There are more. These are just some of the wide receivers who are being drafted according to Fantasy Pros PPR consensus ADP in rounds 7 through 9. We welcome you to Fantasy Football Today. Adam Azer with Dave Richard. What's up, Dave Richard?
I'm looking forward to this conversation because I think we're going to have some good depth at the wide receiver position. And these are the rounds where you can chase it versus the crappy running backs that were around when we talked about them a day prior. Focus on these receivers.
Jamie, is this just depth or do we have some league winners in round 7 through 9, Jamie Eisenberg?
There will be some league winners, but I think you're drafting them for depth at the start.
Fair.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that you're much further into the wide receiver pool than you are running backs. We're talking about wide receivers 36 through 49 in ADP, whereas what did we start with Tony Pollard yesterday? He was running back 28, and we finished with J.K. Dobbins, who was running back 38. So round 7 starts with wide receiver 36. Round 9 ends with wide receiver 49. Round 9 ended with running back 36, 30 or 38, excuse me. So you're deeper into the wide receiver pool, but you still have really good players. And guys, the first point.
I don't know why I was on.
The look when Thomas realized he was on was amazing.
Oh, Thomas Shaver just showing up. Talk about round 7 through 9.
Thomas just did a WTF when he realized it, but he mouthed it out loud.
All right, the most important thing for you to know about these wide receivers is that if you're going to get a guy who finishes top 24, either per game or overall, almost all of them, the ones who come out of this group and finish top 24, almost all of them average 7 or more targets per game. Last year, for example, that was Chris Olave. Stephon Diggs did not. He was a rare exception. But over the last 9 seasons, 26 wide receivers drafted in this range have been top 24 per game, and 21 of them have averaged at least 7 targets per game. So look at the list. Sutton, Johnston, Pierce, Godwin, Pittman, Lemon, Michael Wilson, Jayden Reed, Downs, Pearsall, Jacoby Myers, Addison, Wan'Dale Robinson, Xavier Worthy. Dave, who could average 7 targets per game?
I don't know if I'm comfortable saying anybody that you've named can average 7 targets per game. I think the guys that could come closest might be on the same team. It might be in Indianapolis because we know that Michael Pittman's gone, leaves a ton of targets behind. I think they're going to consolidate. And I think Downs and Pierce could each get close to that number of 7 targets per game.
Jamie, any candidates here?
Godwin. I think depending on how you view Michael Wilson, but I don't think he'll get to 7. Wan'Dale certainly could, but that's
you know what? You're right. Wan'Dale absolutely could.
With Carnell Tate, if he's legit, then no. I think 7 is probably the ceiling for most of these guys.
The problem with Wan'Dale getting past 7, and he's been past 8 each of the last 2 years, is that he just doesn't do a ton after the catch. You're drafting him because of specifically the catches and the points you get with him in full PPR. But I'm looking forward to talking to him. He's somebody I'm targeting.
Yeah, and he's one of the last guys in this group. He's wide receiver 48 in ADP. And remember, I said that's to finish top 24. None of these guys are being drafted anywhere really near that. So you don't need them to average 7 targets per game in order to return value here. All right, so we're going to get into these guys in just a moment. I want to remind you, though, we are, we're in July. We're ramping up our coverage. We're going to be at 5 episodes per week beginning next week. During the season, you'll have an episode every single day, sometimes more than that. We'll have live streams that are just on YouTube at youtube.com/fantasyfootballtoday, including for at least 90 minutes before kickoff on Sundays. So we are really dedicated and we're year-round. And this is our 19th year. So almost 20 years of fantasy football advice. So if you're new to the show, subscribe to Fantasy Football Today to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us anywhere you can find podcasts. youtube.com/fantasyfootballtoday. You can follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just look for Fantasy Football Today. And welcome to the family. We have a lot of fun. We have a great audience, especially that Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where you can just talk to other listeners and viewers and get your questions answered, those types of things. But we'd love to keep our podcast growing. So join us, tell your friends, and let's do this. Group chat stats. Some fun fantasy football facts that you can tell your.
Why don't you say it around the water cooler?
Because you told me I stole it. You shamed me. I much prefer water cooler stats.
I like where you went with it. I like group chat stats better.
All right, group chat stats. Your fantasy football group chat. Go ahead.
21st century.
Tell them.
Like, why can't it be like Slack chats?
No. Only people.
Not
that
everybody
work
has Slack.
Yeah, come on.
Like WhatsApp chats?
You can have a group chat on WhatsApp and on Slack. These are group chat stats, Jamie.
What's the green zone?
You're starting to devolve into some other chat platforms that might not be suitable for this show.
All right. Tell your group chat that Michael Wilson averaged 21.2 PPR fantasy points per game in his last 10 games. That is basically what JSN averaged last year for the full season. That's amazing.
It is amazing, but I don't think that encapsulates who he is. Like, you call me out all the time when I give a stat that you can further Azer stat.
Yeah, of course.
And there were a bunch of games that he played late in the year with Marvin Harrison Jr. Almost all of his big games came when Marvin Harrison Jr. was sidelined.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But
yeah,
it's
7 games with him and Brissett and Marvin. He was at 10.2 PPR points per game, 5.7 targets per game.
Yeah. But it's just amazing what he did. I mean, I don't think there's any scenario where Marvin Harrison Jr. would have averaged 21.2 PPR points per game. I think that's kind of the point. And also he was even better than Trey McBride in that stretch. All right. Over the last 3 seasons, group chat, Jayden Reed has 34 carries. 6 of them have gone for 20 or more yards. He has twice as many 20-plus yard runs as Alvin Kamara and Ashton Genty over the last 3 seasons. Genty only 1 year, but Kamara 3 years. Also, Jayden Reed is second among wide receivers in fantasy points per target over the last 3 years. Now, number 1 is Jalen McMillan. Number 4 is Tim Patrick. But Reed actually has a lot of targets compared to those guys. So I mentioned, and if you just watched the mailbag show, I gave these stats, but Jayden Reed has been one of the most efficient wide receivers in football since he entered the league. Jamie, Courtland Sutton, if he's going to be good this year, and he's wide receiver 36 in ADP right now, he needs to score touchdowns. Well, over the last 3 seasons, Sutton is 6th in touchdowns among wide receivers. He's 15th in targets, 5th in red zone targets, 12th in green zone targets, 3rd in end zone targets. Do you think Courtland Sutton can keep that role? Because that's not really been Jalen Waddle's strength, is the end zone targets. Whereas Courtland Sutton, 25 targets in the last 3 years, 25 touchdowns, 22 of them were thrown to the end zone.
I think he still leads the Broncos in touchdowns, but he loses everywhere else because of Jalen Waddle. So that's the thing that's going to save him is, you're hoping that he becomes a version of Devontae Adams if you're going to still buy into Courtland Sutton. But this is a good spot to take a chance on him, this range.
And Dave, Wan'Dale Robinson has 2 straight seasons with 140 targets. He was wide receiver 47 per game in 2024 and wide receiver 17 per game in 2025. Both times he had 140 targets. What changed? He had a bit of a higher ADOT. He had more end zone targets. He averaged more yards per catch. But, anybody getting 140 targets is a must-draft player way before round 9. I don't know if he'll get there again, but it is amazing just how different his 2 seasons were.
He's averaged 8.2 targets per game in his last 38 games in this offense. He was drafted by Brian Daboll. He has followed Brian Daboll to Tennessee. The Titans receiving core added Carnell Tate in the draft. They still have Calvin Ridley. They still have a couple of guys that they took last year who were rookies. I think he's an easy plug and play for the Titans offense, and he'll be an easy short area target for Cam Ward to lean on. And it would not surprise me in the least if he continued to average 8 targets per game.
Man, that's a lot of targets. Jordan Addison is another guy that's in this group. We just talked about Wan'Dale Robinson. How about Jordan Addison? Jordan Addison has ranked 55th or worse in targets per route run among wide receivers with 50 or more targets in all 3 of his NFL seasons. So a lot of numbers there, but the bottom line is Jordan Addison just does not command a lot of targets. He needs to score touchdowns to be good, and he's been pretty good at scoring touchdowns in 2 of 3 seasons. And finally, Chris Godwin. Now, real quick here, if you are watching the show live and you just watched the mailbag, then you know we recorded the Wednesday mailbag before this show. If you're listening, you're going to hear a lot of the same stuff about Chris Godwin that I was on Wednesday's mailbag show that I'm about to say now. But Chris Godwin was a top 6 wide receiver per game in all 3 formats in 2024. He was not top 50 per game last year. Jamie, who's the real Chris Godwin?
Somewhere in between. I'm curious how much he's going to line up inside, because that's typically been his best role, is playing the slot. And so when you have a Emeka Egbuka and you have Jalen McMillan, and we'll see what Ted Hurst does, and obviously new play caller and Zach Robinson, where they put Godwin, I think, is going to matter a lot here. So you're seeing a lot, obviously we can't be naive to the fact that our audience only reads and pays attention to us. You guys, I'm sure, are seeing a lot of other publications that are hyping up Chris Godwin as the best receiver in Tampa Bay. And that makes some sense because of what his rapport is with Baker Mayfield and what his track record has been. So I think this is a great spot to take a chance on Chris Godwin. I think he's going to exceed his ADP, but I don't think he's going to be a top 6 fantasy receiver. And I certainly don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last year, because as we've seen from him, there is a track record, now granted he's older, of him almost taking 2 years to recover from significant injuries. And so if that happens again, then we're getting a pretty good version of what Chris Godwin can be. So in this spot, I would take a chance on him, but I wouldn't be reaching for him much sooner than this. Much earlier than this, excuse me.
And you're right about the slot rate for Chris Godwin. It was about 48% last year, which is low for him when he's been at his best. He's got 5 really good to great PPR seasons. His slot rate's been over 55% all those years. All right, we only have one news item that I saw, unless you want to throw in some others, but Jeff Howe of The Athletic says that we should be prepared for Chris Rodriguez to be an important part of the Jacksonville offense. Anyway, Dave, right now, as we take a quick break from wide receivers, Basil Sutton is on Fantasy Pros RB24, and he's in round 5, whereas Chris Rodriguez is RB43 in round 12. What's better value, Sutton in round 5 or Rodriguez in round 12?
I guess it's Rodriguez in round 12, provided that he's healthy when training camp starts. It sounds like he will be. His profile suggests that he's a good short yardage goal line running back, but the stats say Sutton was better in that role last year. I would be nervous about those two becoming an ambiguous duo in the backfield. We touched on this in the mailbag episode, but we didn't really speak too much on Jacksonville being one of those backfields that you could potentially draft the pair and have a starter each week. I just don't know how effective the one starter will be, because they could be very much like what Chicago was last year, where there's just weeks where one of the running backs is great, the other one leaves you hanging, and you don't know which one it's going to be from week to week. It could go that way in Jacksonville.
Frank in the chat says, I'm totally out on Jacksonville's backfield. This feels like such a mess, Jamie.
I mean, it's potentially a mess. I mean, you lose a guy like, Travis Etienne at the time, Travis Etienne, and they didn't really do a lot to replace him. I'll go back to what I said or the other show, whatever day there's, about Alvin Kamara and James Conner. Like, this feels like a destination for those guys, or one of those guys, because it would add a veteran presence that has maybe the opportunity for a little more pop than those two guys, or certainly a better resume than those two guys. But Chris Rodriguez, as we've talked about, has a history with Liam Cohen. It's part of the reason why he was the fallback plan. They did want J.K. Dobbins. That was, recently reported. It was something that I heard as well. And so, if they went out and tried to get somebody else and failed, then clearly that tells you, a little bit about what they did. They settled for somebody, and Sutton could maybe not be the guy that they're hoping he can be, but this is what they have right now. This is what they're going to go to training camp with. And obviously it's a great offense. It's an offense that showed a lot of improvements and really, I think, helped Travis Etienne, who, as we know, last year was one of the best values. I think he was going in this range of running back. So I'm still hopeful for both at this point, with Rodriguez missing all of the offseason. Sutton's the one you want to draft first, but I still think Chris Rodriguez is a great sleeper to target with a, late round pick, depending on where his ADP settles.
Travis Etienne / Achane is one of the biggest asterisks in ADP history, because they traded Tank Bigsby last year on September 8th. So that's why Etienne was going as late as he was, round 9, I think, last year. I don't know where he would have gone. He still would have probably been a really good value, though. I probably would have been like a fifth or sixth round pick after the season he had been coming off of. Just speculation. All right, that's their thoughts on the Jaguars backfield. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll get into Courtland Sutton, Quentin Johnston, and Alec Pierce in round 7 after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
JJ, we appreciate your time breaking it down.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With the plays you missed.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And analysis to give you an edge.
All we need is 20 points.
I was shaking in my boots.
Texas, Ohio State, who wins this game?
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
Beginning our round 7 through 9 wide receivers discussion with round 7. Be weird to begin with round 9, wouldn't it? Courtland Sutton, Quentin Johnston, and Alec Pierce. They are wide receivers 36 through 38 in ADP on Fantasy Pros. This is PPR. Dave, how would you rank Sutton, Johnston, Pierce?
Pierce, and then Sutton, and then Johnston.
Pierce, Sutton, Johnston.
There's decent gaps between each of them too.
Okay, Jamie.
Pierce, Johnston, Sutton, and Johnston and Sutton are very close.
What do you guys make of Alec Pierce and his injury right now? How difficult is that making your ranking of him, Jamie?
I'd probably be a little bit more excited about Pierce, but I think just looking at it he's one of the most hardest players to project because you're asking him to do something that he's never done. And a lot of his production last season came at the end of the year without Daniel Jones. But obviously no Michael Pittman. The contract is clearly something that you have to buy into. I believe in terms of his injury, he had the surgery when he did to make sure that there would be no issues for his training camp. So he should be fine. Certainly for the start of the season, he should be fine. This is a steal. I mean, I haven't seen Alec Pierce going around 7 in any draft I've done.
None.
So I'm surprised that his ADP, the fact that he's in this range to me speaks to the fact that he's hurt. I think if he was healthy, no issues, we were drafting right after free agency and he signed that deal in terms of drafting for real. We're talking about a round 5 receiver. That's the type of upside he has.
Man, he's so interesting because the guy was a second round pick in 2022, 6'3", 211 pounds at the combine. He ran a 4.41. He's just always been pigeonholed as a deep guy at one of the highest ADOTs in the NFL. I believe Alec Pierce has led the NFL in yards per target and yards per catch 2 straight seasons. But deep ball. I wonder if he's going to play a different role this year because he only had 84 targets in 15 games on pace for 95 targets. You can't get a bunch of targets when your average depth of target is 17 yards. So will he play a different role, and how will he do with that role? We know who Courtland Sutton is at this point. Quentin Johnston also is going to apparently play a different role. But Alec Pierce, Dave, I still think we don't really know what he's capable of.
And we don't know how effective he'll be in the shorter area role. I just quickly looked and checked out what his receiving metrics were on throws of 18 or 15 or fewer air yards, And it ain't great. His catch rate was 58%, 1 touchdown, 36 targets in total, 15 games, only 36 of his targets were 15 yards or closer through the air on the line of scrimmage. And that's with a high catchable throw rate from his quarterbacks, 7.4 yards per target, 0.78 yards per route run. This is nasty. This isn't what you want from a receiver. And so you've got to wonder, does that change if he gets more opportunities? And you can't help but think that he will get more of those opportunities because Michael Pittman walked out the door, was traded out the door with 111 targets from last year. I know Josh Downs is going to take a lot of those targets away, but Alec Pierce was just paid like a number 1 wide receiver. I think they have to use him accordingly, and it would make sense if they did. We just don't have the evidence that he can succeed on those short and intermediate routes.
Yeah.
Makes him a little bit tougher to trust. And that's probably a part of the reason that, along with Daniel Jones' injury, is making people a little squeamish. And I think that's why his ADP is what it is.
You have his projections on the YouTube site from Sportsline, which is 105 targets. That's not ideal.
No, but here's the thing. When you look at Christian Watson and Jamison Williams, who are going ahead of him, they are guys who can get about 105 targets and still be. I don't think he's going to turn 105 targets, Alec Pierce, into wide receiver 21 in PPR because I just don't think there's enough catches there. But wide receiver like 27, 28, JMO has kind of been like that guy that you can get 105 targets, be that efficient. And Alec Pierce is even more efficient than him so far in his career. I just think like to get 105 targets in full PPR and only the projection was for 58 catches. I don't know how that's going to end up being wide receiver 21.
No, that projection is very close to what JMO did over the course of the 2025 season. And on a per game basis, JMO was wide receiver 19. And that's in a year when receiver scoring was down.
Yeah, it was right. It was a bad.
He might be able to cross over into top 24 territory. I think reaching for Alec Pierce is a mistake. I've got him ranked as a round 6 wide receiver in full PPR. That might be a little bit too high. I just don't know how many other wide receivers I love more than him because he does have gargantuan upside if he can connect on those intermediate throws and they still throw downfield and Daniel Jones is okay. And maybe that's too many ifs, but there is upside for Alec Pierce to be better than what these projections suggest, and certainly to get more than 105 targets over the course of 17 games.
Okay, I'm just not going to draft Courtland Sutton in round 7. There's just no way, because I really think that when I gave that stat about getting 7 or more targets, but the other stat is that about 22% of wide receivers drafted in this range over the last 9 years have been top 24 guys. And maybe about 10% have been top 12. Like, you can find great players here. I don't see any path to that for Courtland Sutton. Honestly, even if Jaylen Waddle got hurt, I don't know that he could do it. Maybe. He's going to be 31 in October. So I'm just not drafting him. I do like Quentin Johnston. Round 7 feels a little early. Jamie, I know you like drafting Quentin Johnston. Do you take him in round 7?
I would, yeah. I mean, I think, again, this is going to be another guy that gets hyped up to a point where he may be too rich to draft in the round 6 range. But, when you start to talk about the wide receiver numbers, that's where I think it matters more. So if you don't like the profile and you don't like the history, and obviously there are things, you can nitpick about Quentin Johnston, and I shouldn't say nitpick. You can obviously point out the flaws of what he's done in his profile in the early part of his career. I'm just banking on what I saw the first 4 games of the season when Joe Alt was healthy, Mike McDaniel now being there, and the things that he's saying about him and how he wants to unlock him and comparing him to Andre Johnson and Julio Jones and players that he's coached in the past. And I think that's a little bit obviously hyperbole, but you're still talking about a player that is a former first-round pick that has huge upside. And despite the struggles the last 2 seasons, if you want to call them struggles, he scored 8 touchdowns each of those 2 years. And so this could be a guy that, similar to Pierce, similar to Jamison Williams, similar to Christian Watson, big play potential, doesn't need a lot of targets. If he starts to get those, though, then we could be looking at a guy that can, approach the top 24. I don't think that's in the range of possibility. I shouldn't say. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's in the range of possibilities that he can have an opportunity here to, really take off and just dominate in this offense with McDaniel calling plays.
Dave, do you agree with my take on Courtland Sutton, that he just doesn't really have a lot of upside?
What is the upside? It's that Jaylen Waddle doesn't perform to expectations, or he gets hurt and then he's forced into being back in the same role that he was in last year. And last year, that role resulted in almost 13 PPR points per game. And that's probably okay if we're talking about a round 7 wide receiver.
It's great in round 7, but that's if Waddle's not good or hurt.
There are at least 4 wide receivers that I've found, 5, make it 5 wide receivers who last year had at least 7 touchdowns and under 7 targets per game. So minimum of 7 touchdowns and under 7 targets per game. Only one of them averaged more than 13 PPR points per game. So if Sutton is seeing a downturn in targets, but is still going to be a red zone threat, I think you plan accordingly and expect him to be in that 11 or 12 full PPR range. That's okay for round 7. I don't love it, but I don't love a lot of, I like more of these receivers in like that round 8, round 9 range than I do pushing them up into round 7.
Okay. Well, but except you said for Pierce, you think this is a good spot.
Pierce is in that. I think Pierce is in a good spot in round 7. And I think some of the other players, if you're looking on the screen on YouTube, round 9, Pearsall, Wandale, I think Addison, and Jacob, like I think almost all the round 9 receivers, if we're getting those guys in round 9, I would pass on most of the receivers in round 7 and 8 to go after those guys in round 9.
All right, let's go to round 8. Because round 9 is Pearsall, Jacoby Myers, Addison, Wandale, and Worthy. Round 8, 6 wide receivers from wide receivers 39 through 44 in ADP. Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Makai Lemon, Michael Wilson, Jayden Reed, and Josh Downs. Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Makai Lemon, Michael Wilson, Jayden Reed, Josh Downs. Jamie, who are your 3 favorites in that group?
God was my favorite player on this entire list, so he's 1. Downs would be 2, and Wilson would be 3.
Godwin, Downs, Michael Wilson, ahead of Pittman, Lemon, and Reed. Dave, how about you?
It's Godwin, Downs, Wilson.
Oh, interesting. Did you know Michael Wilson averaged 21.2 PPR points per game in his last 10? Also,
I heard that fairly misleading stat somewhere.
yeah, also Michael Wilson, much better playing out wide than in the slot. His slot rate was a lot higher with Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field. Okay. Jamie, why is Chris Godwin your favorite player, not just in round 8, but in all of these rounds, round 7 through 9? So ahead of Sutton, ahead of Johnston, ahead of Alec Pierce, Chris Godwin.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit already. I think he goes back to being the slot receiver for Tampa Bay. I think he's going to be healthy compared to what he was last year. You're talking about Jalen McMillan, Emeka Ibuka, Ted Hurst, young players with a lot of upside, but very unproven track records here. And Godwin and Baker Mayfield have a very strong rapport and strong history together. So I think the value for Godwin is fantastic. There's clearly a lot of downside, as we saw last season. And to your point, he may be done. He may be washed up. That certainly could be the scenario here. But when you're starting to look at targets per game, I think he could lead this entire group. Production, past history, I think he's, resume speaks for itself. And so if he's healthy, and I think Tampa Bay, despite the fact that he was hurt I think it was last year when they gave him the contract extension, they still feel really comfortable with him as being a focal point of this offense. And I think that's going to happen. So I'm thrilled to take a chance on him if I get him around 8. I would take him as early as round 7.
Okay. And you said Josh Downs after that.
Yeah, I think Downs, it's between Downs and Tyler Warren, they're going to lead the team in targets. I think both guys out-target Alec Pierce. And so how much of a big increase do we see for Downs, who averaged over 12 PPR points per game in 2024, started last year injured. Again, no Michael Pittman. He's the easy guy to, fill that role and be the short area guy along with Warren for Daniel Jones. Jones coming off the injury. How much is he going to throw downfield to Alec Pierce consistently, at least the early part of the season? So I think Downs is a huge winner with Pierce gone, probably a bigger winner than Alec Pierce, although Pierce's contract, I'm sure he'll take that every day of the week.
I think Downs is trying to earn that contract.
Yeah.
I believe he's in
not
the
getting that,
contract
though.
year. I don't know, dude. He puts together a monster year for Indianapolis, and he can.
It's going to have to be like a Amon-Ra St. Brown monster year for him to get that type of deal.
What's the difference, though, between Josh Downs and Jayden Reed? I think Jayden Reed is coming off a really bad year where he got hurt almost immediately, played hurt, but we say they lost Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks. Both of them are very high slot guys, slot percentage, like very high, who don't play enough snaps really. But Jayden Reed has just, I think, been a better version of Josh Downs. I think based on—
He's been a more efficient version of Josh Downs.
Well, look at—
You have to go back 2 years to see it, though.
Yeah. Okay. Last year stunk, but the first 2 years of Jayden Reed's career were pretty good.
I think the biggest thing for me is I know Josh Downs is going to be on the field a lot. I don't know if Jayden Reed is going to be on the field a lot.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason for that is they spent a first-round pick on Matthew Golden, and Christian Watson is clearly their alpha, no matter what LaFleur will say. He's their best receiver. And so Jayden Reed figures to be more as their slot receiver. And when you have Tucker Kraft and the personnel groupings that they're going to use, if they're not in 3 receiver sets, I don't think Jayden Reed's on the field a lot. Josh Downs is going to play outside this year. There's no way around it. He's going to move around. He's going to be a different type of receiver. They said as much. And so I think Jayden Reed's value is awesome. But if you're telling me I have to take Jayden Reed over Josh Downs, I'd rather have Downs.
1 point.
Is Jayden Reed who you go after if you don't get Downs?
He's one of the guys I would consider. But
Sure.
I mean, we're talking when you're in wide receiver 44, depending on how you draft, if you're putting yourself in a position where you're drafting these guys to have to be your starters, you may be making a mistake.
Right.
Like I'd rather be talking about these guys the way I draft as one of my top reserves, or worst case in the flex conversation.
Just 1 point in Reed's favor is not necessarily over Downs. I would take Downs over Reed. He's scored in 2023 and 2024 1.3 and 1.4 points per game and rushing totals. It's a little scary because you don't know if he's going to get that, but he's been so damn good with the ball in his hands. Probably too good. You probably shouldn't expect that.
Well, I mean, we were calling him Debo Light.
I think you should expect that.
I don't know. 9.1 yards per carry. Debo Samuel in the last 3 years has averaged 4.5 yards per carry.
No, but in terms of opportunities, I think the Packers would be doing themselves a disservice if they don't give him those touches. And, LaFleur, 2 owners meetings ago, when he was coming off the 2023 season, was, saying as much. Like, he's a dynamic player. Part of that, though, is why he got hurt, was just maybe he's not built to do all these extra things. I hope that's not the case, but you never know. But in the case of Reed, that's in his favor versus Downs. His quarterback is much better. His offense is probably much better. And I think, if he was on the field a lot more and did stay healthy and got those chances and he was, put him on the Colts right now, then it's probably a better situation for him just in terms of playing time. But again, does he make more sense if you're the Packers to play him as an outside receiver in whatever spot over Christian Watson or Matthew Golden? I would think they look at it and probably say no. Now they paid him, but again, draft capital, production, they need Christian Watson to win. They need him to stay healthy. And I think they need Matthew Golden to sort of justify the draft pick. So he's going to probably get a little bit more opportunities to play just in terms of playing time than I think Jayden Reed does, at least early in the season.
I'm a little surprised that you guys had Michael Wilson third. Again, the group of 6 wide receivers were Godwin, Pittman, Lemon, Wilson, Jayden Reed, and Downs. Jamie said Godwin, Downs, Wilson. David, you said Godwin, blank, Wilson. Who was the second
Downs.
one? Okay. So you both had Godwin, Downs, Wilson. I'm a little surprised because Michael Wilson was obviously amazing at the end of last season, but even in that 10-game stretch or 7-game stretch? Whatever. 8 games. Last 8 games, he averaged 21.2 points per game. Even in that 8-game stretch, there were 3 games where Marvin Harrison Jr. played, right? Week 13, Marvin Harrison Jr. played 61% of the snaps. Michael Wilson had a 13% target share. Week 16, Marvin Harrison Jr. played 51% of the snaps, and Michael Wilson had a 16% target share. Week 17, Marvin Harrison Jr. played, those target shares are when Harrison was on the field. Week 17, Marvin Harrison Jr. ran 13 routes. When he was on the field, you did have 4 targets for Michael Wilson, which was a 40% target share. But even in the midst of this incredible run, as soon as Marvin Harrison was on the field, Michael Wilson was pretty much doing nothing. So compared to Makai Lemon, who's got a great opportunity, Jayden Reed, who we just talked about, Michael Pittman, who I will not draft in any of these. I don't know. No, I really cannot see myself. I like him better than Metcalf. I'm definitely not drafting Metcalf, but no, I'm not a Pittman guy. Dave, I don't know. I'm a little surprised Wilson was third for you.
He's third, but he's also ranked 45th amongst all wide receivers. So I can't sit here and say that I'm a big proponent of drafting Michael Wilson, but you can't deny what you saw in film last year. You have to hope that the new coaching staff, and for what it's worth, Mike LaFleur has said that he views Michael Wilson in the same type of role as Puka Nacua. And I kind of get it. When you watch Michael Wilson play, he's very physical. He's got good for his size, linear speed. He's got decent quickness. Not sure he's got the same type of hands as Puka Nacua, but then again, who does? Puka's just great at about everything, and he's a great fit for that offense. I worry about there being a target crunch that remains. And unless LaFleur is just completely done with one of Harrison or McBride, I'm worried that there's going to be modest at best target volume for Michael Wilson from week to week, and that he will not put up numbers like he did last season when he had so many opportunities, most of which coming when Marvin Harrison was off the field.
So I think just the biggest thing for Wilson is, and I agree with almost everything Dave said, like Godwin could be great. Pittman may be the best receiver for the Steelers. Maybe Makai Lemon is A.J. Brown. Maybe Jayden Reed is the best receiver for the Packers. Maybe Josh Downs is the best receiver for the Colts. Alec Pierce, Quentin, Johnston, Courtland, Sutton, all these guys. One guy on this list averaged over 20 PPR points per game for a stretch last year. One guy.
20?
For that stretch.
Oh, Michael. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I thought you were
referencing your stat.
I thought you were talking about Michael Pittman for whatever. Yes, Michael Wilson. Yes.
And so
unbelievable.
this is where I have him ranked as well. It's in the 40s. It's not with the expectation of him doing that again by any stretch. It's not with him being the best receiver on the Cardinals. I still think that's Marvin Harrison. But what if?
Yeah.
And that's the reason you're drafting him, is the what if. What if what we saw last year makes him the best receiver, not receiving talent, not better than Trey McBride, best receiver, better than Marvin Harrison, who's going, I'm assuming, in round 5 or 6. What if Michael Wilson is Puka Nacua in the role, not the production, but in the role? Like, just those type of ifs makes you want to gravitate toward him, and why some people think Michael Wilson's better than Marvin Harrison, because Michael Wilson did something Marvin Harrison we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So if he does get those opportunities, he's not getting over 13 targets per game, because that's what he was averaging when Marvin Harrison was out. Like, if he gets just more chances and becomes a guy, especially if Jacoby Brissett starts the majority of the season, look, there's every which way this can go bad. Michael Wilson's track record and history suggests when other guys are there, he's just not the same. But the if. And so I think just if you're talking about your 4th receiver, your 5th receiver, he's done things that nobody else on this list has and may ever accomplish in those games that he did last season when Harrison was out.
Yeah. The what if, I mean, my biggest takeaway from what you just said, the what if, is that I'm not drafting Marvin Harrison.
That's fair.
Because he's going, early round 6.
I would rather have Harrison, because I think he, again.
No, but at cost, you'd rather have Harrison in round 6 than Wilson in round 8?
If it's only a 2-round difference, then yes, I'd rather have Harrison.
Okay. I'd rather have Harrison. I
don't want to pay the round 6 price for Harrison.
I'd rather have Harrison than Wilson. I don't know about the cost.
Right. I'd rather have Wilson at this cost.
We got to take a break. I'm sorry, Dave. We got to take a break. We'll talk about Lemon and Pittman when we come back, and then we'll get to the round 9 guys. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
You need a hug?
You need a fist?
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, you need anything. I do have one question. We didn't mean right now.
Jamie, when I said I wasn't drafting Michael Pittman, you seemed surprised. Do you like him as wide receiver 40?
In this range. I think I have him at 41. No, I'm sorry. I have Metcalf 41. I have him at 44. I think Pittman could be the best receiver for the Steelers. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, again, the way that he plays, the routes that he's going to run, the type of quarterback Aaron Rodgers is right now. The only saving grace for DK Metcalf for me is McCarthy's offense is vertical. And is Aaron Rodgers at this age able to do the things I think McCarthy would like to do, and certainly would like DK Metcalf to do? Pittman just seems to be a better fit. And so you lose Kenneth Gainwell. Obviously, Jalen Warren, Rico Dowdle are going to do some things in the passing game, and there's going to be other players that step up and perform. But for the cheap investment, still the production, he's still young enough. He still had a good enough year last year. He's had some really good years the past couple of seasons. I think Pittman could be one of the biggest surprises this year. Now, not Chris Olave surprise where you're getting him very late and he's a superstar, but like, man, I should have taken Michael Pittman sooner, or why didn't I value Michael Pittman more? Like, he could be one of these guys we're talking about at the end of the 2026 season. Like in PPR, I think if you're, again, looking at the sports line projection, 6 touchdowns feels about the ceiling. I would probably take the over on the 673 yards, but like 777, 800, that range, like that type of guy, like he could be a really good number 3 fantasy receiver.
Okay. I'd take Lemon over him though.
Oh yeah. More upside.
Dave, Lemon or Pittman?
Pittman.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We've talked about him so much that I felt like I needed to play the music. And the fact that he's on the Steelers now and he is legitimately the Pittman. Thank you, Michael Pittman.
All makes sense.
Yeah. Michael Pittman said that he was playing a role last year that basically just doing what the Colts were asking him to do. ESPN had a note that said Next Gen Stats had Michael Pittman with 47% of his routes through week 15 being in breakers, which was the highest rate of his career. So the point of this
Get
whole
used to that, Michael.
Well, no, the point of this whole spiel is that he felt like he was going to be used more versatilely.
With more versatility?
Yeah. In Pittsburgh.
Be more versatile.
Sure. Someone's saying like Adam hates the Steelers. Adam's hate for the Steelers is real. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to deny it. I just don't think Aaron Rodgers is good enough, especially his deep balls. And he doesn't want to get hit, and he gets rid of the ball super quickly. That's why I will have 0 DK Metcalf on my team.
Right. Makes all the sense in the world. Go ahead.
I mean, Metcalf had actually a really low ADOT last year. Just that's what he wants. And that's Metcalf we're talking about. He turned him into a low ADOT guy. All right. Let's talk about Pittman. Let's talk about round 9. Pearsall.
I thought you wanted Lemon.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, I thought I kind of did, but sure. What do you want to say about Jamie? Give me an outlook on Lemon.
Well, I mean, we know A.J. Brown is gone, so that's 121 targets that are left on the table. I think we're all hoping Devontae Smith gets the bulk of that, but that's not realistic. And so how much will Lemon stand out ahead of Hollywood Brown, Dontavian Wicks? There's one other guy I forget. That group, and be the first-round talent and produce like he's capable of. And it's just an unknown. I don't like the fact that he was hurt in minicamp, so hopefully he'll be healthy. But I mean, my gosh, the easiest comp in the world is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And if he could play like that and be that type of guy for Jalen Hurts, and I think it's an easy narrative, but I think it's a silly narrative to say that Jalen Hurts won't throw over the middle of the field. He definitely has done that. He will do that. He'll continue to do that. I think the new offense will, force him to probably do it a little bit more. And that's where I think the comfort factor comes in. But I mean, there's such huge opportunity here for Makai Lemon. So when you're talking about upside plays in this, I'm going to guess Jordan Tyson's probably around 6th pick based on his ADP. Wouldn't shock me if Makai Lemon is better, just again, looking at what their profiles are and quarterbacks and roles in offense. I think Jordan Tyson's a great prospect. I think his role in his offense is going to be fantastic. So it's not to knock him, but Lemon may end up just being in a better spot. And for every reason to love Devontae Smith, he's never had to be the alpha for a full season. It's 3 games over the course of the last 2 years that he's been that guy, and he's been fantastic. But Makai Lemon may end up being the best receiver of Philadelphia. I don't think that's the case. You should not draft that case. I'm not saying that, but there is that potential for a guy being drafted in the first round for a team like Philadelphia trading up to go get him, knowing they're going to get rid of A.J. Brown, understandably, but trading up to go get Makai Lemon for a reason, and I think they're going to feature him as much as they possibly can.
Okay. Makai Lemon is a round 8 pick, as you see. Carnell Tate is an early round 6 pick. Jordan Tyson is a late round 6 pick. Who's got the best value of those 3 rookie receivers, Dave? Carnell Tate, early round 6. Jordan Tyson, late round 6. And Makai Lemon, round 8.
Tyson is the worst. I think Tyson and I think Lemon are closer to round 9 or round 10. So by default, I will take Carnell Tate.
Jamie, best value?
I'll take the value of Lemon. I would rather have Tate over these guys, but going back to the Cardinals guys, like I would pay the 2-round difference for Marvin Harrison over Michael Wilson in this case. I would rather take Lemon 2 rounds later than Jordan Tyson.
All right, now we go to round 9. Round 9, Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver 45. Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Wan'Dale Robinson, Xavier Worthy. Ricky Pearsall, Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Wan'Dale Robinson, Xavier Worthy.
I think I have every wide receiver at least 1 round higher.
You really like this round, huh?
I do. I love it. These were the receivers I was thinking about when we started the show, and I thought about, all right, these are receivers that could be potential wide receiver 3s for your fantasy team, and you're getting them in the middle of your draft.
Would you say you're on cloud 9?
It's not quite 7th heaven.
Yeah, but 8 is great.
8 is great. We're on cloud 9. Okay. Who do you like the best, Dave? Who are your top 3? Pearsall, Myers, Addison, Wan'Dale, Worthy.
I believe that I have Wan'Dale in full PPR ranked the highest of this group. And it's based on everything that we've already talked about, the fact that he's not sharing with a tremendous alpha. And even if he was, he did it in 2024 with Malik Neighbors, and he still had huge target volume and his role has changed since then. And he's probably a little bit better of a wide receiver now than he was 2 years ago. Pearsall's next, but the argument is all upside based. And then I've got Addison and Myers basically back to back. I currently have Addison one spot ahead. I could see Myers being a little bit safer, and I might end up putting Myers ahead of Addison.
Myers is another guy I'm just not drafting.
There isn't a great upside case to make for him unless it's all contingency based. Brian Thomas doesn't put it all together. Parker Washington was a flash in the pan. Jaguars have no choice but to up the targets for Jacoby Myers, who could handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But last year in Jacksonville, 10 games, 11 PPR points per game, 6.5 targets per game. It's a little tough to see him being that much better this year.
Yeah, I think it was the last 6 games when Brian Thomas Jr. came back after the ankle injury, Myers had a 25% target share. Parker Washington missed one of those games, played less than 56% of the snaps in 3 of the 5 games he played. So there is that. But Jacoby Myers definitely was a big part of the offense, and he's a good player. He'll probably outperform his ADP. ADP at wide receiver 46. Jacoby Myers
does every year.
Yeah, he'll probably outperform that. I don't know. If I'm going to buy into Parker Washington, and I am to a degree, I just can't really get excited about Jacoby Myers. I don't know. This is a good round, but I personally think these guys deserve to be behind most of the players in front of them. Doesn't sound like Dave does.
Mm-mm.
Jamie, how do you feel about it? Pearsall, Myers, Addison, Wandale, Worthy?
Pearsall and Robinson should definitely go ahead of some of the guys in round 8. I think just looking at Robinson, the fact that he's still tied to Dable is important. I think the fact that Carnell Tate has still to prove something is important. I don't think Robinson matches anything close to his targets the last 2 years. I just don't think that's possible with Cam Ward and the offense they're going to run in Tennessee. But it could happen. And Pearsall is really just based on hope, so can he ever, it's almost like what, I was saying about Michael Wilson, totally different. I shouldn't say it. Pearsall is the hope that you get the type of player that we've seen flashes of.
Yeah.
And so if that ever materializes, and again, he's had a hard time staying healthy, but age-wise, he's sharing the field with a 30-plus-year-old Mike Evans, a 30-plus-year-old George Kittle coming off an Achilles injury, and he's got the longest tenure of the top receiving options. I shouldn't say of the wide receivers who are going to play, because Stribling's a rookie and Evans and Christian Kirk are new to the team. So hopefully Pearsall can just stay on the field and start to produce. But I think Jordan Addison's an interesting case because we keep saying, oh, Justin Jefferson was great in the Carson Wentz games. Well, so was Jordan Addison. He played really well when it wasn't JJ McCarthy. And so hopefully Kyler Murray's presence and, I hope not being ruined by Juwan Jennings' presence, but, Jordan Addison can have an opportunity here to, play at a high level, hopefully, and deliver on some of the things that we've seen from him. Like you alluded to, whether it was the mailbag or this show, a lot of it has been touchdown related and what he's accomplished, but that's still something to, gravitate towards. So I think a lot of these guys on each round on this list have the potential to pop, but it just in terms of the round 9 guys, you're hoping Wandale Robinson targets. Like he's, to me, just a cheap version of what we're expecting from Parker Washington and Josh Downs. And you can get him, significantly later than Washington and even later than Downs here. And Pearsall is more just hope. I do think that the Jacksonville scenario is very intriguing because we're going to sit here and say, if Brian Thomas does this, if Parker Washington does that, and whatever Travis Hunter provides, like Jacoby Myers could just be the constant presence for this offense. Like you said, he played a lot. I think that's going to continue because the trade for him and the contract extension that they gave him. I think Myers stays on the field probably more than we want. So we'll see how that matters more so for maybe Thomas and Hunter, because I do think Parker Washington stays on the field quite a bit as well.
Myers is the kind of guy to me that has a really good 5-game stretch. Just it never really puts it together for a full season, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't see him that way.
He has 1 year in his career. He's 29. He'll be 30 in November. Jacoby Myers has 1 year in his career with more than 866 yards. He's usually in the 50 to 55 yards per game year. He had one really good year, 2024, with the Raiders. He averaged 68.5 yards per game. Pardon me.
When was that?
20 Adams was traded, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Mostly.
he's had like half year splits that are pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
What's
and
that?
so it's not 5 games. It's like double that.
Okay, fair.
But it's like something needs to happen in order for that split to reveal itself. And that's what I was kind of getting at with Jacksonville. If everybody stays healthy for the majority of the year and BTJ is better than he was last year, then, it's the term Jamie's been using for 19 years. It's steady Eddie. He's probably in that 10 PPR range.
Okay. Let's talk about Xavier Worthy. We haven't really gotten to him. Didn't really get to see a lot of Xavier Worthy last season, at least the healthy version of Xavier Worthy. He got hurt in week 1. When he came back, he wasn't running a normal route tree. He was limited by the injury. He finished his rookie season very strongly, but mostly, if not all, without Rashee Rice. So I guess all. Jamie, how much hope do you have for Xavier Worthy, the last of these wide receivers in round 9, wide receiver 49 in ADP?
The Chiefs obviously have a lot of faith in Xavier Worthy because you got Rashee Rice, who went to jail and had another knee procedure and has all kinds of potential red flags surrounding his off-field stuff. Travis Kelce's 35 years old, going to be 36 in October. And they didn't do anything. They went out and they got Cyrus Allen. And they didn't do anything to help this receiving core. And so I think that speaks to that they are hoping, expecting, needing Xavier Worthy to play at a higher level. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be a great fantasy receiver because we haven't seen him do it consistently. And there's still, as of now, Kelce back, Rice available, healthy, all things ready to go. So where does that leave him on a team that seemingly wants to run the ball a lot more after what they did this offseason and going and get Kenneth Walker and Amari DiMercato and drafting Emmett Johnson? So plus you have Mahomes coming off an injury. So I think Worthy is appropriately priced. If you want to take him as early as round 7, I get it. If Rice has another problem, health related or off field related, then his ADP will explode and Worthy will hopefully play at a higher level. But that's the scenario that we went through last year, and he couldn't stay on the field to open the season. So Tyquan Thornton and these other guys are going to have to probably play more than I'm sure the Chiefs want and probably more than fantasy managers want. But I think Xavier Worthy's a good late round flyer just with the hope of maybe he can live up to the potential. I kind of, again, I said this yesterday with a couple of guys. To me, Xavier Worthy and Matthew Golden are the Spider-Man meme. Like, there's so much upside, so much potential. Will it ever materialize? That's what we're waiting to see.
By the way, Travis Kelce wishes he were 35, about to turn 36. He is 36, about to turn 37.
Sorry.
Did you hear he got married?
I did. I was going to – I didn't want to bog the show down, but I was going to say, hey, I got a good bit for you guys. I was going to make Dave be Travis Kelce and you be Taylor Swift, and I was going to marry you as Bobby Boucher.
Oh, because Adam Sandler married them, right?
Right.
That sounded like the worst skit ever until you talked about Bobby Boucher would marry us.
Do you, Mr. Kelce, take Taylor Swift like I take Vicky Valancourt to be my lawfully wedded wife? But I just couldn't think of like the funny stuff to add to it.
Yeah, I don't even know what I would say as Taylor Swift. But it's not a bad premise. I like where you're going with that. Again, these round 9 wide receivers are Pearsall, Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Xavier Worthy.
I did see somebody like post on Twitter, like he said to Taylor Swift, like, do you take Travis Kelce, blah, 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 stuff. And then he turned to Kelce and be like, skibbity doo. Like something stupid, just make him laugh.
I like this group here, and wide receivers fun, right? It's weird because we're coming off this year. We say it all the time. Bad year for wide receivers. Bad year for wide receivers. Yet here we are talking about wide receivers 45 through 49 in round 9 and being like, man, I can get behind these guys. And there may not be that big of a difference between round 9 and round 7 or maybe even round 6. That's a good question. Like, how big of a difference is there between round 7 and round 9. Round 7 being Sutton, Johnston, and Pierce. Round 9 being Pearsall, Myers, Addison, Wandale, Worthy.
But this is the blob.
Right.
So like it's almost wide receiver 30 through 50. Like you can make strong arguments pro and con for each of these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's probably closer to like 40 through 55, something like that. And so I to me, it just comes down to who do you like? Who do you think has a chance? Who's got huge upside and maybe a safe floor to go along with it? And
the stats,
those are the guys you gravitate towards.
Again, the stats would say who has huge upside is basically the same question as who can get 7 targets per game.
Right. Okay. So answer that question. And we did that to start the show.
Yeah, but like Sutton, Johnston, Pierce, Addison, maybe Worthy, maybe Michael Wilson, like Pearsall, like that could be touchdowns more so than targets that save them.
For sure.
Yeah, but they're going to need to score a hell of a lot of touchdowns to make up for a lack of targets.
Man, Godwin, what a roller coaster I've been on with Chris Godwin.
Last year was a roller coaster. Remember the one game he came back, the first time he came back, and he looked unreal. And then every other game after that, he looked terrible.
I don't remember that being the case. I remember him getting a ton of targets, but us not necessarily thinking he looked unreal. But I
thought he looked good in that first game back.
Remember we had an 80-yard touchdown and Adam hated it?
Good. He's so slow.
He finished the year with 5.5 targets per game, and he averaged about 11 PPR. I think a little more than 11 PPR points per game. So if you think he can get to 6.5 targets per game, I think he's one of those guys that's safe floor, decently high ceiling. I don't know about a mega ceiling, but a good, solid top 24 type ceiling.
It's not going to take much for me to be back on the Chris Godwin bandwagon. I just need to hear that he's healthy. So I know he's healthy.
Have you heard otherwise though?
No. I want to hear something like, I just wasn't myself last year. Now I'm fully back. And then I really think he could be one of the true steals of the draft. Now he could say that and not mean it, but I put it this way. If he is back to being what he at the full strength of what he was in 2024, when he was the 3rd best wide receiver per game in PPR, Chris Godwin is going to be the best value in fantasy. I mean, Evans is gone. Evans being gone is such a huge deal because this guy got all of the end zone and red zone and green zone targets. This is who Baker Mayfield looked at all the time. That guy being off the field is a huge deal.
Right, which is why you're hoping that's Ibuka, but still, Godwin could easily be that type player.
Right, yeah, I mean, but right. You are hoping it's Ibuka.
But like you said, it could be Jalen McMillan. You know,
could be.
When those guys were hurt at the end of 2024, he was amazing.
One other thing about that is that Baker Mayfield went from 7.9 yards per attempt to 6.8. The team threw for 750 fewer yards and 15 fewer touchdowns. When you look at bounce back wide receivers, you need bounce back quarterbacks to get there. Not always, but that's a sort of a cheat code. I think the Bucs could probably not going to get back to the 2024 levels, but certainly can be better than they were in 2025.
I was just real life scenario. I took Emeka Ibuka in round 4 of the fishbowl, and through round 6, I did not have a quarterback yet, and I was waiting to see because I'm picking 2, so I was coming back the other direction. The manager picking at 1 also did not have a quarterback yet. I was like, I'm going to take Jared Goff because I already committed to Gibbs and Laporta, but Baker was my fallback option to just sort of, marry him with Ibuka, and then I was going to try and see if I get Godwin on the way back.
I have so many questions. First, a point of clarification. Earlier, I said DK Metcalf had a low ADOT with Aaron Rodgers. Actually, wasn't that low, but it was a career low for him. But it wasn't a super low ADOT. I have so many questions. You're in the Scott Fish Bowl. You don't have a quarterback. It's a super flex league, so it's it's unusual to not have a quarterback in round 6. I am on pick 13 of the Scott Fish Bowl. How the hell are you in round 5 or 6 already? What is going on? This just started yesterday. Where are you? 8?
We're moving. We're cooking.
It's almost to your advantage, Adam, to be in a slower draft.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Way more ADP information comes in that can help guide you.
I mean, not just that, but I have a draft to look forward to for a while. I don't understand.
That's not having a rookie draft to look forward to.
You have it'll happen at some. Yeah. You know, people in the Scott Fish Bowl, come on, let's hurry up. Yo, it's July 7th.
We have not had one person be like, "Oh, you got on the clock, you got to go." Like this has been very organic. First time this happens. Very fun.
I think it's not fun. I think
I got a lot of drafts coming up. I'm good.
I think what you're doing is terrible. Fine. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching and
I
listening.
get very impatient, so like I have to stare at the thing constantly because I don't want to miss my picks.
You want to hear what happened with me? I don't know if this actually. All right, so last night I played tennis and I was like on deck in the Scott Fish Bowl. So I put Trey McBride. It's a massive bonuses for tight ends. I put Trey McBride in my queue. Bowers was already off the board, and I forgot about the league. And I log on at, I don't even know, midnight or something. It was like 10:30 after the soccer game. And I said, oh, and it said the draft was paused and Drake May had been selected and the commissioner had removed Drake May from the pick. And it was the pick before me, but I thought it was me. And I wrote, oh, damn it, I auto-picked. I had McBride in my queue. I figured it would select him. I'm sorry, everyone. Apologies for holding everyone up. And then someone said, no, someone didn't pick. They were removed and they're looking for a replacement now. So I go, oh, gotcha. Well, then never mind. I definitely do not have Trey McBride in my queue. I hate McBride. Right. So I totally gave away who I was going to pick. And of course, the guy got added. What's that?
Why would you do that?
Because I thought that I auto-picked Drake. I thought I was on the clock.
Yes, but you just say I had somebody in my queue, not who you had in your queue.
Well, it doesn't matter because
have you played fantasy before?
I thought it was paused on my pick. I didn't realize it was the pick before me. So I thought I was on the clock. I was just going to take Trey McBride. And anyway, they added the guy and he took McBride. So I don't know if you saw my chat or not, but
it's probably because of you. I mean, you're the fantasy expert in there, right?
I guess. I don't know if there are others, but I don't even know if these people know who I am.
Everybody knows who you are.
That's definitely not true. We'll see. We'll see.
You're Dan Schneier's driver.
I know you as Dave Azer's little brother.
There you go. See?
Famous. So is my mom. All right. Well, we'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today. See ya.